In today's video, I want to talk to you about modern day shamans and what they may look like. And so this will be in reference to people who have been initiated that live in industrialized nations and don't live in what we would consider indigenous locations or living in a primitive way. So very often you will not even know that there is a practicing shaman among you. When I leave my home, nobody knows what I do. I don't dress the same as I do in my videos. I don't really tell people what I do. Although sometimes people can sense it and they just will open up to me, and total strangers, that's happened to me before. So if you are in the healing arts or a shamanic practitioner, people will just sense it and they'll feel safe to open up to you. So that has happened to me. Most of the time, if people ask me what I do, I still just say I'm an interior designer. And that way I don't have, if I say, oh, I'm a shaman or a vulva, they'd be like, oh, what? And go in. And it's just not something that I want to go into with a stranger. But I can tell you that these people, for the most part, live a normal life to the outside world. Like I said, I was an interior designer, and when I was initiated, and I actually was performing shamanic healing, although it wouldn't to the normal person look like it. I would teach people how to paint furniture, and everyone would go into like a trance-like state. So if you've ever painted or done anything with creative with your hands, you'll notice that you do go into like a state, an altered state, where you're not thinking about everything around you and all your problems. You're very focused on the task at hand. And people would always say, you know, oh, it's like taking a little vacation. And afterwards, after I teach them and they complete their project, you could feel the energy. They were bubbling and they were so happy. And people became addicted to the paint that I was selling, but it wasn't really the paint. The paint was the tool. It was the feeling they were getting when they painted. And, you know, I never really said anything. And I know when I would paint, if I was alone and someone walked into the room, it actually would agitate me, because I was in this deep trance, where I was just in my own world and not thinking about, it's a form of meditation. So, doing anything creative with your hands is extremely healing. And it is a form, I feel, of meditation and going into trance. Those of you who do creative things, you know that that's true. So I was practicing it in my own way, even when I was, you know, in the normal world. But there is a point on this journey where when you are called to be a shaman, the initiation that I went through, nothing will work for you, and because trying to be normal, let's just say, you will try and then want no part of this. I wanted no part of it when I was initiated. I wanted a normal life, and I felt very inconvenienced and pissed off when this all started happening to me. I didn't look for it, if you know my story. I was initiated by the Norse gods, and I really wanted nothing to do with it. I resisted it for a very long time. And eventually, they'll just keep coming for you. And they actually will make your life very uncomfortable for you in order for you to get on this path. So that's been my experience. And that has, when I've been reading ancient books, they will make your life uncomfortable, to get you to follow this path and help others, because that's what I'm here to do. And that's what shamans are here to do. So a lot of the times you won't even recognize them. They are very under the radar. They're usually not in public pontificating, because as a shaman, you're very detached, and you know that people are on their own journey of what they came here to do. And so you just become this detached observer. And if someone comes to you for healing and help, you're more than happy to help them, but you don't go out feeling like you have to save the world. And you don't push your agenda on others like religion does, organized religion, how they send people out and try to recruit them and bring them into their belief system. I don't do that with people. I'm sharing on this channel my belief systems and trying to bring back animism and polytheism. And you can watch if you want. If you don't watch. So, but there is a rising interest in animism, and so I know that that's part of my job, and so that's what I'm here to do. And another part, and especially in the Norse tradition, that you weren't even initiated, or I don't want to say allowed to practice until you were done child rearing and you've done that part of your life. There is no way, if I had my 2 small children and I went through this initiation, I would have been able to raise them efficiently. So I really think that a magic number is around 35 years old, is when I started, the stirring started, and I met people in my life that changed my path. But the magic number for me, and what I've read in books, is 40. The age of 40 is when your magic really starts happening. Because when we're younger and in our 20s, we're not emotionally mature. We have life experiences that we still need to go through. If you're a woman and you want to have children, you go through that, even into your 30s. But even like the priest kings of the past and chiefs and all that, you weren't allowed in the traditions that I've read to come into power until you were 40. So that is a magic number. And I know for me, right when I turned 40, I felt a shift. And at 41, I had my death experience. And that's when I started going into inner earth, interacting with beings and all that. So that's a magic number. And I know in the becoming a vulva and everything, it was for women, it was when they were done with child rearing and probably closer to the age of 35, 40 years old. That's not uncommon. I've known shamans. I have a friend who is an emergency room doctor. You would never know his beliefs because he's in medicine. So, and he started questioning things when he would see a 4-year-old little girl who fell 1 story maybe and died, yet the gang member who was shot 5 times survived. And he started contemplating and questioning those things. And then he actually had an initiation. And so you never know, because we don't always say who we are or what we do when we're out in public. And you could be, I know people who are just housewives and, they raise their children and their husband provides enough for the income to pay the rent or the mortgages, and they are stay-at-home moms, getting their kids off to college, and they're shamans. And so it will hit anybody. It doesn't matter what, and these people that all I know, none of them searched for it. It all happened to them, these initiations. And so it's just, don't think that shamans have to look a certain way or work in a certain job or anything like that. Like the emergency room doctor, he eventually moved to India, and he is working with the population there that can't afford health care and everything like that. So it did change him. So there's always this shift and change, and you will eventually go into a more shamanic path. And you usually can't work for somebody else when you're on this path also. And I love all my tools. I love wearing more shamanic looking jewelry, and because that's an ancient part of me. I love being surrounded by bones, things made of nature, and all that kind of stuff. But when I go outside in the normal world, I change my earrings, and I don't wear certain things. And I just don't feel like a need to proclaim to the world what I am or what I do or anything like that. We're pretty much kind of hidden people and don't feel the need to put ourselves out there when we're out in public. So, and I might not look like a vulva or a shaman to a lot of people, but we still can wear makeup and dress, like I live in Orange County, California, so there's no one specific look, like we're supposed to be, no makeup and natural and wear certain things. There's no definition now that we're in this modern world. There's a part of me that would love to dress like that all the time. I love when I see indigenous dress and all like that, but I just can't do it where I live. I wouldn't feel comfortable. But if I lived somewhere where I could, oh my gosh, yes, I love that whole look. And there's a lot of power in all those amulets and beads and bones, and I mean, there's so much power in it. So when I do work with people in person, I do have a lot of that around me, just because there's so much power in those tools. They didn't use them without a reason. There's a whole reason for that. And I will get into that when I go more explaining tools of shaman or animism, and especially what you can have around your house. And I know that was part of my path, especially my Aruda. If you know anything, if you've ever gotten a Vedic reading from me, there's an Aruda Lagna, and mine is a spiritual teacher of esoteric knowledge or hidden knowledge, but I also have Saturn retrograde, which is very no BS, but Saturn retrograde people make good interior designers and architects and all things like that. So I know for a fact that your home is a huge, it can become a portal, and it can, what you surround yourself with, especially your bed and your bedroom, because that's where I have most of my experiences, or when I leave my body, it should be a very sacred space. And so I'm going to help you with those things. Traditionally, involve traditional items or directions and things like that of how best to have your space, your home, and your bedroom become magical and become part of your animist belief system, and just it helps you bond and relate to the world around you when you surround yourself with these items. Your bedroom especially is a very sacred space. So I will be going into that. And yeah, so just know that not all shamans look like shamans, and they don't all have jobs as you would think that shamans would, but it was part of their training, and they will incorporate it somehow into their practice, like I did, like my doctor friend did, and it will relate somehow. And so I'm really looking forward to making more videos more often. And when I came back from Mexico, I was totally in a different place. And so there's a lot more to come. So thanks for watching, and I will see you on the next video.